Hello, everyone, and welcome to our final closing out session of the conference. It's been a fantastic 2 days. I'm Josipa, Petrunic, President and CEO of CUTRIC, and once again, I want to thank our sponsors, ABB, HDR, Hitachi, ABB Power Grids, Parsons, and Switchboard, all of whom helped to not only finance this event, which was a first for us in the rail sector, but also they showed that they're championing new technologies and the deployments of those rail technologies across the country, giving us all hope that we can, in fact, become a Canadian nation of 21st century rail mobile passengers. With that, I want to turn to the final speech of the day from Mayor John Tory, the representative, of course, of the biggest city in the country, one of the economic generators of GDP in this country. I always say when the King Street car breaks down, the GDP drops in Canada, and Mayor Tory has been carrying that for several years, I think, to great credit, dealing with several challenges, not only the pandemic, but all the other challenges that a big city brings with it. So with that, over to you, Mayor John Tory.
Good evening to CUTRIC and to all of our esteemed guests, and thank you for tuning in to CUTRIC's first annual Canadian Smart Rail Technology Conference, being held virtually. Here at the City of Toronto, we feel that designing smart urban rail systems is vitally important to meeting our green transportation objectives, yes, but also ensuring that more people can move freely in and around the city and connect up to opportunity. Over the past few years, our city has seen historic investments in rail expansion, including the ongoing construction of the Eglinton Crosstown LRT. The City of Toronto is thankful for all of those who contribute to the development of new rail systems right across the country, from rail car manufacturers to green mobility researchers, all the way to the various transit agencies, including our own TTC and Metrolinx, that are working hard every day to connect people to more sustainable and efficient transportation opportunities, but also to connect them to opportunities. You know, communities that become marginalized in cities are going to be helped by a lot of different things, better housing and better access to jobs, but they need transportation to get them from one place to another. And that is where the work that you're doing is so important. So I hope that the conversations over the past 2 days provoked serious and critical thought as to how industry and government and academics can work together to use smart rail as a tool to meet our environmental commitments while creating a highly efficient mode of transportation and a way to help ensure greater equity in our cities. Thank you again for your participation, and I hope you have a wonderful evening.
And of course, we always thank Mayor Tory for his effort and support in helping us to build out some of the most innovative transit projects in the country. With that, I'd like to turn to thanking once again all of the participants at this conference. We've reached the end of CUTRIC's first Canadian Smart Rail Technology Conference. It's been an honor to welcome you virtually. And we've come back to the theme over and over the last 2 days as to how and why we ought to leverage rail innovation to achieve our climate goals through just and fair energy transition, to protect vulnerable communities across the country, and of course, most importantly, to guarantee economic prosperity for all, which is one of the fundamental variables in economic equality and social mobility for Canadians. Today in particular, we heard many great things, but some of the highlights were Ontario's Minister Mulrooney of Transportation, who highlighted Ontario's leadership in driverless rail technologies. And importantly, she talked a lot about the expansion of rail and public transit networks in the province. We heard from Quebec's Minister of Transportation, Chantal Rouleau, who outlined Quebec's national leadership in electrification, which I think nobody today can deny. Clearly, the jobs of the electric vehicle future are in Quebec, and they're there in the short term and immediate term. We also heard just recently from TransLink CEO Kevin Desmond, who outlined that, look, even before COVID-19, transit was at capacity. It was pressed to bring on more people. And yet, in the interest of climate action, we actually have to get even more people into transit and out of their cars. So demand pricing and innovative management of riders and clients is going to be important, as is money for more public transit. We heard from Mark Halinati, who's CEO of Thales, who talked about the fact that, look, we designed these driverless rail technologies in Canada. Historically, we haven't deployed them. That's starting to change with things like the Ontario line and the REM, but a lot more could be done if Canada adopted the technologies we actually innovate here domestically. And we heard from Elke Rubaka at Transpod, who articulated the fact that Hyperloop is real. It's a real technology. It can be deployed. It's happening in Europe. There's a lot of interest there, and we need to start thinking about it as a real rail technology and a mobilizer of people, not as a conceptual maybe. Merci d'avoir participé aujourd'hui à la 12e journée à la conférence canadienne sur la technologie ferroviaire intelligente. Au cours des 2 derniers jours, nous avons accueilli des visionnaires de l'industrie ferroviaire qui nous ont, une fois de plus, convaincus de l'importance de l'innovation technologique pour déplacer les Canadiens et Canadiennes vers leur famille, leur travail et des nouvelles opportunités. Nous aimerions aussi remercier nos sponsors. We want to thank once again our sponsors ABB HDR, Hitachi ABB Power Grids, Parsons and Switchboard. Again, we want to thank all of our keynote speakers and our panelists, as well as our active participants. What a great audience, because you had nonstop questions and we couldn't get to them all, but your insights and knowledge and experience were critical to this deep dive dialogue. We hope that we've opened our eyes and yours to the possibilities that, despite the challenges of COVID-19, it's an exciting time for rail mobility in Canada. Without doubt, we want to thank our board of directors, without whom there is no CUTRIC, and especially our chairperson, Catalina Gallo, who's a constant force of support and innovative thinking when we try to do things like this conference. Merci encore une fois à tous et à toutes pour votre participation aujourd'hui et hier. I'd like to now take a moment to introduce you to our National Government and Public Relations Lead, Grace Riley, who's going to provide you with a sense of what lies ahead in terms of our government relations and outreach at the federal and provincial levels. Over to you, Grace.
Thanks, Josipa. This conference has fed into CUTRIC's long-term government advocacy efforts. CUTRIC published its 5-point plan for building back better transit this past September. And since then, we have been advocating for 5 top recommendations for the government to consider as the country navigates through the COVID-19 pandemic. CUTRIC recommends that we lay the framework right by investing in smart planning initiatives to guarantee smart, accurate investments in infrastructure. Secondly, we're advocating to build up Canada's advanced manufacturing sector, supporting Canada's advanced manufacturing ecosystem of industry leaders, many of whom have attended and spoken during this conference, like Thales, ABB, and Hitachi ABB Power Grids. We are pushing for the build-up of innovative, clean public transit. We must set ambitious targets for electric, hydrogen fuel cell, autonomous, and other forms of public transit. Target setting has also been a key theme that we've heard throughout our panels over the past 2 days. Gathering data and sharing knowledge is another key recommendation, as this country has to use the data to share lessons and improve transit outcomes. And finally, we need to find smart solutions for a safe return by investing in research that will identify issues and pose solutions to bring back ridership safely. I think just about every panel and keynote noted the challenges this pandemic has brought to the industry, so it's imperative that we move forward and come up with innovative solutions. CUTRIC is working on a return to transit initiative at the moment and will submit an unsolicited bid to the Research Tri-Councils in Q1 of next year. It will include research proposals that will address air filtration, as well as material and cleaning products that best remove any viruses, so that transit agencies can bring riders back safely. Our government relations team has met with many ministries, I should say, to discuss its 5-point plan, including the Ministry of Infrastructure and Communities. And we did hear from the minister herself, Catherine McKenna, yesterday. We've met with the Ministry of Innovation, Science and Industry, Natural Resources, Economic Development and Official Languages, the Ministry of Environment and Climate Change, and also the Ministry of Transport, and many mayors across the country. So lots of advocating has been going on the past few months as we continue to push for our 5-point plan to be implemented. So thank you very much, and back to you, Josipa.
Thank you, Grace. La pandémie du COVID-19 a démontré que le transport en commun est un service essentiel pour les Canadiens. Face aux nouveaux défis présentés par la pandémie, le CUTRIC a tenu à présenter un plan audacieux et ambitieux pour aider le Canada à rebâtir ses réseaux de transport en commun et les villes dans le cadre d'un avenir meilleur et plus propre. Pour y arriver, le CUTRIC recommande d'investir dans des initiatives de planification intelligente pour garantir des investissements responsables dans les infrastructures. Nous demandons que le gouvernement fédéral mette sur pied un programme national d'études de faisabilité neutre pour encourager les sociétés de transport à disposer des fonds publics en prenant en considération la performance des nouveaux bus à zéro émission et des infrastructures associées. Ce travail de planification doit devenir une condition préalable essentielle et nécessaire pour atteindre les objectifs fixés par le gouvernement fédéral, soit 5 000 autobus à zéro émission d'ici à 2025. Le CUTRIC suggère de renforcer le secteur de la fabrication de points du Canada en soutenant l'écosystème de la fabrication de points des leaders de l'industrie canadienne. Le secteur du transport en commun au Canada est avant-garde et nous devons continuer d'investir dans l'innovation locale. Nous encourageons le Canada à se fixer des objectifs ambitieux pour les transports électriques à pile à hydrogène autonomes et les autres formes de transport public. Nous devons prendre avantage les technologies de l'avenir pour y arriver à nos fins. Nous croyons aussi qu'il faut se donner les outils pour collecter des données et partager nos connaissances. La valorisation des données, c'est utiliser les données pour partager nos bons coups et améliorer nos points faibles pour optimiser la performance des systèmes de transport en commun. Et finalement, le CUTRIC recommande qu'en temps de COVID, il faut trouver des solutions intelligentes pour assurer un retour en toute sécurité vers le transport commun. En investissant dans la recherche, l'impact de nos suggestions est évident. Nous voulons faire du Canada un leader en matière de technologie propre de pointe pour améliorer nos villes et notre qualité de vie. Nous tenons aussi à améliorer l'accès au transport des communautés sous-représentées, dont les femmes et les groupes marginalisés. And as we continue to build a better Canada through better mobility that moves more Canadians more quickly, more efficiently, more cheaply than single passenger cars could ever do, I would like to now introduce you to our digital business development lead, Adriana Shuyen, who has truly launched CUTRIC into a digital event age that we could not have predicted even a year ago. Over to you, Adriana.
Thank you, Josipa. I would like to thank all of our speakers, our sponsors, and attendees who have joined us over the past 2 days. We have seen such fantastic engagement, conversations, and questions from our audience, and we would love to continue the conversation. So please feel free to connect with us by emailing us at info@cutric.org or visiting our website if you're interested in hearing more about what we're planning and if you want to become a member in 2021. We also encourage you to continue to connect with each other by using the networking portal on the conference website. The networking portal and the videos from all of the sessions today will be available for 12 months after the conference. We will announce when these videos will be available next week. I would also like to thank our team, Mahmoud Nasheli, Jason Lesage, and Grace Riley, who have been part of the conference task force, have been critical in making this conference possible. I'd also like to thank my other team members and colleagues who have helped out in running the back end and the front end to make sure that this conference and the platform work for all participants. The future is bright for Canadian rail mobility. We've seen it. We have heard it. I encourage all of you to keep this conversation going within your communities. Let us continue to push this movement for safe, efficient, and reliable rail mobility far beyond this conference. Merci beaucoup à tu et à tu, and we hope to see you at the second annual Smart Rail Technology Conference next year. Thank you and have a good evening.